Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a story that I find absolutely fascinating. It's about how one man's personal crisis, a real dark night of the soul, didn't just change his own life, it lit a spiritual fire that spread across the entire globe. And it all boils down to this one very peculiar phrase: I felt my heart strangely warmed. Think about that. It's not this huge, explosive, dramatic event. It's quiet. It's personal. It's strange. And yet, this single moment of personal feeling is what transformed a man who was full of doubt into a revolutionary force. So what on earth did that actually mean? And yeah, that is the big question we're going to dive into today. How do you get from one man's quiet, internal breakthrough to a worldwide Christian movement that's still going strong centuries later? Let's trace that journey together. To really understand the fire, we have to meet the man before the spark. You see, John Wesley's early life was this intense, nonstop search for holiness. But for all his effort, all his discipline, it just left him feeling completely and utterly empty. So let's do a quick flyover of his early years. He was born in 1703, steeped in religion right from the get-go. He goes off to Oxford, and he's so serious about his faith that he starts this group they nicknamed the Holy Club. Then he heads off to the American colonies as a missionary, thinking he's got it all figured out. Spoiler alert, he didn't. The whole trip was a total disaster, and he came back to England absolutely broken. And that Holy Club, that's actually where the name Methodist comes from. And, it wasn't a compliment. It was a nickname other students used to make fun of them for being so, methodical. They had a strict method for everything: prayer, study, charity. But what started as an insult, they eventually wore like a badge of honor. We really can't overstate how much that failed mission to Georgia shook him. This wasn't just a career setback. It was a complete crisis of faith. He went there to convert others, but he came back home wondering if he was even a real Christian himself. He felt totally inadequate. And that feeling, that rock bottom, turned out to be the perfect soil for a transformation. So this brings us right to the heart of the story. Wesley's back in England, searching. Just desperate for a faith that he could actually feel in his bones, not just practice with his mind. And what he's about to find? Well, it changes everything. A huge influence on him at this time was a group called the Moravian Brethren. On the boat trip over to Georgia, there was this terrifying storm. The mast cracked, waves were crashing over the deck, and English passengers were screaming. But the Moravians, they were just calmly singing. Wesley was blown away. He saw a peace, a genuine trust in God that he knew he just didn't have. And then it happened. On the night of May 24th, 1738, Wesley reluctantly went to a small meeting on Aldersgate Street in London. He didn't even want to go. But while he was sitting there listening to someone read, he had the breakthrough. It wasn't an argument that convinced him. It was a feeling, a deep personal assurance. In his own words, he finally felt that he did trust in Christ and Christ alone for his salvation. And that was the big shift. That was the spark. For his entire life, faith had been in his head. It was about rules, discipline, and right thinking. But in that moment, it dropped from his head into his heart. It became real, personal, and alive. And that newfound passion became the fuel for everything that came next. So, with this newfound conviction burning inside him, Wesley didn't just keep it to himself. He started organizing. He took his personal experience and began building a structure, a movement, to help other people find that exact same heartfelt faith. Now, what he was doing was pretty radical compared to the established church of the day. The Church of England could be very formal, very rigid. Wesley's approach was all about personal experience. It wasn't for an elite few, it was for everybody. And it wasn't just about showing up for a service on Sunday, it was about real, honest accountability in small groups. And this is where you see his organizational genius. He built this brilliant three-part structure. You had the large group, the societies, for preaching. But then you had the classes, these small groups of about 12 people meeting every week to support each other. And for those who wanted to go even deeper, you had bands, tiny, intimate groups for intense support. It was a system designed to make sure no one got lost in the crowd. Wesley famously said, "The world is my parish." Just think about that. For him, a warmed heart had to lead to working hands. Faith couldn't just stay inside a church building. It had to go out and engage with the real world, with all its problems. And when we say he went out, we are not kidding. Just look at this number, 250,000 miles. That's the distance he's estimated to have traveled to preach on horseback. That's like circling the globe 10 times. That's not just a job, that's a relentless, all-consuming mission. You see, when the official churches literally closed their doors to him, Wesley took his message to the people. He started preaching outside, in the open air, in fields, at the entrances to coal mines, and marketplaces. He went to the people the church had largely forgotten, the working poor. And his message demanded action. Wesley became a powerhouse for social reform. He was one of the first and loudest voices calling for the abolition of slavery. He started schools for poor kids. He opened medical clinics to provide free health care. He organized charities to help people in poverty. For Wesley, there was no separating personal faith from social justice. They were two sides of the same coin. So, after all that, what's the end result? What is the lasting legacy of this one man's incredible journey? Well, from that one moment on Aldersgate Street, a legacy was born that has stretched across centuries and all around the globe. This chart just gives you a snapshot of that explosive growth. It started in 1738 with a handful of seekers. By the time Wesley died, it was a major movement all across Britain. And today, the Methodist and Wesleyan traditions have tens of millions of members all over the world. It's just staggering. And here's why I think it's endured. Wesley's genius was weaving these three things into one: a deep personal faith, a strong, supportive community, and a passionate commitment to go out and fight for justice and heal a broken world. It's the whole package. And that really leaves us with a final question to chew on. The story of John Wesley is this powerful proof that a single, authentic, personal experience, when it's channeled with passion and smart organization, can create waves that truly do reshape the world. It makes you wonder, right? What does it really take for one person's conviction to change everything?